in the Appalachian Mountains where the rippling river flows. Was a dark, mysterious settler, hunter was a trade he chose. He answered to no Indian tribe, nor the English crown, only to the sky above and his bed ground. Black rifle, no braver man was found. What people say until this day, Jack still walks around. He built a mountain cabin, had children and a wife. He would hunt and fish each day, he had a perfect life. He returned one day, what a tragedy he found, where they burned his mountain cabin.
Hello, I'm Ben Souders. Welcome to Wild Juniata. This episode we're going to be talking about shelter building. Now when it comes to survival, just like anything out there, you've got a lot of different schools of thoughts. You get a dozen people together and ask them what they think the most important thing in survival is, and you're probably going to get a dozen different answers. And when it comes down to it, a lot of times it's just, situation dependent. But generally, most people tend to agree that a shelter is the most important priority whenever you're faced with any sort of survival situation. So it can be anything from intricate, well-designed shelter that you've built that's taken you all day to build, or it could just be finding some sort of rock outcropping, or getting under a tree to shield you from the hot sun or the freezing rain. It's all circumstantial dependent, and by no means is this 100% of the time that the very first thing you will build is a shelter. But generally 9 times out of 10 you'll find that that's the main thing you need to worry about. Winds gusting between 20 to 30 miles an hour, so snow's coming down pretty hard. A situation like this, you're definitely gonna have a hard time not only getting a fire going, but trying to keep one maintained. So now the wind's picking up again. This is a debris hut I built back in November, and it has not been slept in or maintained since that is the end of March. So it's been several months. We've had a lot of heavy snow, a lot of heavy rains, things like that, and it held up relatively nice. So the debris hut, it's kind of like your Mark I Mod shelter that you want to build if you're in a survival situation. And this is relatively big debris hut. Normally if it was just for one man or one woman, whatever, you would build it a lot smaller, because you want to think of just making a stick and leaf sleeping bag is essentially what it is. You're not building a fort. A lot of times, people build them too big, and you're giving off all that body heat to heat it. If you got too big of a surface area inside, that's more body heat it takes, more energy to heat all that. But my dog that just ran off the scene there, I built it big enough for him to fit in there with me. So it's a 2-man debris hut. We moved off some of the leaves here so you could see the ribbing. So when you're building your debris hut, what you want to do is you want to find an area that's relatively flat. And the first thing you want to find is what's called a ridge pole. And that's this thing right here. You want something sturdy enough that it's going to hold a lot of weight from leaves and sticks. So you got your ridge pole. It's going to run all the way down to your feet. As far as the length of it, you want to get at least from standing to reach up overhead to your fingertips. A lot of times I make mine longer than that. It just, it depends how strong the ridge pole is, how much sag you get from the leaves and the sticks on it. But that's a very important part of making your shelter, because if you get one that's rotten or it's too thin and you pile all that stuff on it, it's going to snap or sag down and it's going to be pressed up against your legs. I've had that happen to me before, and it's not very comfortable. So that's definitely a lesson learned there, to get yourself a good ridge pole. And then the ribbing that I was talking about earlier, you want to think of it as just kind of like a ship. So your ridge pole is like the keel of the ship, and then you've just got the ribbing here then you're just going to place from all the way down at the end, all the way up. And generally, as far as the overhang, this is probably about the maximum that you want. You don't want a whole lot of overhang over top of your ridgepole, because if you get too much, that's more leaves it's going to take to pile on top of there. And if you get too little and you're piling leaves and stuff on, and you bump against it, it could slip off and fall on you in, you know, the middle of the night. So generally a few inches to maybe, a foot's kind of pushing it, you know. So, but yeah, you just do that all the way down. But before you lay your ribbing on the side there, you want to lay down inside it. Make sure you got enough room for your toes, and then you want to take a stick and place it on one end of the shoulder, one end of the other shoulder, at your thighs, and then down towards your feet. And that way you know how wide you need your shoulder to be. Now the thing to remember with that ribbing is you don't want it pressed right up against your shoulders. You don't want to get claustrophobic or anything like that. But it's really not that bad inside, because if need be, you can easily just push your way through. So no need to panic or anything like that. It could just get a little uncomfortable if everything's pressed up against you. But also remember that the more airspace you have inside there, that's the more body heat it's going to take, the more energy you're going to be burning to heat that.
Looky here, look at all these leaves. You're going to need them. Because if you don't, you're probably going to freeze the night. And also here we have a doorway. Most people wouldn't think of putting a doorway in a debris hut, but it cuts off the cold. A lot of people at night don't freeze because they forget to put a doorway or something blocking the air from getting in there. It's just basic, enough to fit your body through and to crawl in there. This is probably about just 2 feet wide doorway is. It's just basic square design. And you gotta remember to put down your leaves. The more leaves, the better you get. And base covering all your airways. Pretty much if you're in the daytime, you lay in it, and if you see like light coming through, you don't have enough leaves. So just lay in there in the daylight if you got daylight going on, and look at all your spots. And if it's just light shining through it, cover it up. A lot of times it'll help if you get like a stick or something, shove it through so you know on the other side where to put your leaves at.
So during the winter, one of the most important pieces of debris in your shelter is the leaves. The leaf covering helps keep your temperature regulated inside and allows you to stay warm. Now when you're piling on leaves, you're literally just going to grab them and pile them up. Just keep piling them over the ribbing. And the basic idea to get the optimal temperature is you want to be able to get it so you can reach in touching the ribbing and the leaves will come all the way up your arm to your shoulder. That'll, for most people, be about 2.5 feet of leaves, and that'll give the necessary amount of cover to give you the proper temperature.
So you can see the ribbing. It's kind of dark in here, but got a lot of leaves. You're going to want a lot of leaves. I mean, the only way you can have too many leaves in here is if you can't fit in.
Make sure you leave a pile of leaves outside your entrance so you can pull them back in and block your hallway with before you go to sleep. Now, the leaves block the cold air from coming in. It's like if you go to sleep at night and you leave your feet out of your blankets, it's just the same way. You don't want to leave any cold air in, so you got to cover yourself up from all directions. And the main cold's going to come in through your doorway since there's no sticks, it's all just leaves. So just leave a big pile of leaves and block your hallway shut.
As you can see with the wall, I still use leaves as insulation, and I basically just drove these sticks into the ground, and then I stacked other sticks in between them like a log cabin. And then there's another wall on the outside, and I just stuffed leaves in between the two walls for insulation. And for the ceiling, you got these beams that rest on the wall, and they go out into the ground, and then they meet up at the top. So as you can see, these are what's holding the roof up here. They're dug into the ground about 18 inches. And over here you can see the outside part of the wall where I lean these sticks up in here.